it's about volume. So for me, my goal in working with anybody is that when we're done working together, I get the best testimonial. That's it. Because what does it take to get that? It's a grind. Right? There's no magic formula. It's just like showing up every day, looking for opportunities, pitching, following up.
Getting publicity for your jewelry business is one of the best ways to build authority and create social proof for your brand. But most jewelry designers don't invest a lot of time doing it or don't even know how to start. So if that's you and you want to get more exposure with your jewelry brand, well, you are going to love this episode today. Hey there, I'm Tracy Matthews. I'm the Chief Visionary Officer of Flourish and Thrive Academy and the host of the Thrive by Design podcast. And I help jewelry business owners launch, grow, and scale successful 6- and 7-figure businesses using my methodology called the Desired Brand Effect. Today on the show, I have award-winning entrepreneur, speaker, and podcast host, Renee Warren, who is gonna walk us through how to build authority for your brand and how to use publicity to get more exposure and so much more. She's also the host of an amazing podcast called Weed Wild Women that is in the top 1.5% of podcasts all around. And I'm excited to invite her on the show because not only is she a dear friend of mine, but also just an amazing resource for anyone who's trying to get more exposure for their jewelry brand. So if that's you, we're gonna dive in just a minute. But before we do, if you haven't done so yet, make sure that you subscribe to our channel, especially if you're loving the content that we're putting out, and click that little notification bell so that you're notified every time we launch a new episode. All right, let's dive into this episode with Renee Warren. Well, I'm so excited to have Renee Warren on the show. Renee, welcome.
Thanks for having me.
It's so fun. This has been a long time coming, and I'm really excited to talk about you. What are you excited about right now?
Well, actually, I felt guilty for not wearing jewelry showing up to me on your
You have a necklace? I forgot to wear my ring.
I wanted to put it on just right now. But what I'm most excited is hanging out with you. You're always a fun time.
Yeah. Well, I just adore you. You know that. Well, thank you for saying that. I will receive that because I like to have fun. And I'm really excited to talk to you today because I've had a girl crush on you forever, as I told you. So
can I tell you a fun fact? And maybe I already shared this with you. Is one of my first businesses when I was younger, like 12, 13, 14 years old, is I started a jewelry business with my sister.
Amazing. What kind of jewelry did you make?
We like beaded jewelry and we would spend hours designing stuff. We'd go to all the markets and like make jewelry for people's weddings, for like the bridesmaids and stuff.
Wait, when you were 12?
We started like 12, but then when we got in high school and we actually had a little bit of extra money, we would go into the shops and buy like the nice stuff.
That's so cool.
Create jewelry. Yeah. And we called it bijou because bijou is French for jewelry. And my sister's name's Michelle. So we put it together and we called it bijou.
I have a sister named Michelle too.
Michelles are pretty awesome.
Yeah. Are you French?
Kinda. Yeah.
You're French Canadian too, or are you American?
Yeah.
Okay.
No, French Canadian.
I think I knew that.
Yeah.
But I knew you and Dan met in
Français.
Yeah. And you speak.
Well, I mean, technically we met. So Dan, my husband, he's in San Francisco. I was living in Canada at the time, but then moved to SF for a bit.
Yeah. Okay. I see. Now, okay. The full picture is coming together. Now I understand.
Yeah. So I know a lot of people say they think I'm American. So I had a recording this morning with a woman who's from Ohio. And she's like, "Whoa, you're Canadian? I thought you were American. You don't sound Canadian."
You don't say
I know way.
You don't say way. Wait, say it again.
I know way. I know.
You don't. Dan says about. You don't say about.
About, out and about. I don't even know. Anyway, but yes.
That's so funny. So for those of you who are new to learning about Renee, and she is an amazing publicity expert. She helps small businesses get publicity. We're going to talk a little bit about that. But also another fun fact, the way I met Renee is through her husband, Dan Martell. Dan was on the podcast in June. I can't remember the episode off the top of my head, the episode number, but I will definitely put it in the show notes. And you are in for another amazing treat because Renee is just as amazing as Dan is. So I just wanted to tie that loop together, which is super fun. So tell me a little bit, like, how'd you get into publicity and PR?
Oh, I love this story. By accident, but in a way, in a previous conversation we had about nerding out on financial statements, how it's not our thing. How I got into PR was I had an agency prior to the one I'm running now. And we were doing content marketing, social media, PR.
Oh.
And we determined that the ROI was largest on just PR. So then we just positioned ourselves as a PR agency for funded technology companies. And it all started, I will tell you this. So I ran that agency for 7 years.
Yeah.
And in those 7 years, I never pitched the media a day in my life.
Really?
I didn't know how to do it. I ran the agency. I did the content side. I did the social side. I did the selling. I hired the people. I fired the people. But my team did it. And you know what? All the people we employed didn't have a PR background either. We all figured it out.
I don't think that you need a PR background to do publicity, because we used to do it in-house, like for my jewelry company.
Yeah.
Back in the day. I think publicity is amazing. Like, it's so great when you get it. And I know for some, and having a publicist is incredible when you can invest in that. We're going to talk all about that. And I also think that there are simple ways that you can learn how to pitch yourself too.
Oh, so easy. And here's the thing is PR isn't hard. It is just a marathon. Yeah. So where most people fail is they give up because they're like, no one wants to hear from me. My pitch sucks. And like a lot of times there's really crappy pitches. I have a whole folder in my Gmail that is bad PR pitches, and it is bigger than anything.
Wait, it says that? It's called bad PR.
Yeah, I will expose these people one day. But most of the time, it's people just give up too soon. They say the last mile is never crowded, and there's a reason. It's because the ones that are succeeded are the only ones in that last mile. Yeah. PR is a lot like that. It's about quality volume. So it's like for us, our default is we have to pitch each client at least 10 times a week. And some agencies are like 6 times a month. Like, no, it's about volume. So for me, my goal in working with anybody is that when we're done working together, I get the best testimonial. That's it. Because what does it take to get that? It's a grind.
Yeah.
Right? There's no magic formula. It's just like showing up every day, looking for opportunities, pitching, following up. It's a grind.
So why do you think publicity is really important for small businesses?
It is actually determined to be the most trusted form of media. And maybe things changed because of COVID, and I have to laugh. I'm sorry. We learned that laughing is the best way to deal with awkward situations. It's still the most trusted way. When you look at people that are like in magazines or invited to be guests on shows, there's a vetting process that goes through that. So your audience is trusting that you're bringing me on this show because I'm going to provide value to them and to have a great conversation. And so by that, the default to that is now your audience is like, if I need a PR person, maybe Renee's the one. If Tracy says she's good, I'll consider her. And so it's really an authority and credibility builder, the stuff you can't get from running ads. Ads is a great, like top of funnel. Anybody with money can throw ads at the wall and see what sticks. But if you're not generally a well-rounded person that is organized and has a message, no one's going to want to share that information.
Yeah. What are the types of businesses you work with?
So I work predominantly with women. I mean, I say that, I'm going to laugh again because actually 50% of my clients are men. I market towards women. I actually had one guy.
I know, I'm like, we have a guest on our podcast that is a man that you pitched.
Well, I've had Dan on my show 3 times, and he's been the only man up until November 7th when I have another man joining me. However, I love working with women the most, but I do have an interesting story about a man that slid into my DMs, and his question was, I'm looking for help with PR, but do you discriminate against chromosomes? And I said, no, I don't. Whatever chromosome X, Y, Z, A, B, C, I don't care. If you have a story to share and you're a good human, I will consider it. I love working with service-based businesses. Okay. And women that want to put themselves out there, women that understand the value of PR. I'm not in the game to teach people and convince them. It's like you either understand how it works or you don't. And that women that are willing to be like, Renee, I'm doing this. I'm signing up. I'm going to do this damn thing. Because when you work with me, I help you step up a little bit, get in the spotlight, but you get uncomfortable because I'm going to encourage you to put yourself out there more, to speak on podcasts, on stages, to contribute articles, and to be interviewed by the media. That's kind of the point.
Yeah. Okay. So PR has changed so much. So we just, full disclosure, you just interviewed me for your podcast, and we were talking about publicity. And I was talking about some of the PR that I landed like way back in the day, where it's like product placement here and there. the game has changed so much. And obviously my podcast is catered towards people in like fashion, jewelry, primarily with products, physical products. What are what are the main channels and avenues for publicity these days?
Yeah. So we'll talk about product-based businesses is that it's, and I mean, it's really generalized now to everybody, but there's a lot more pay to play.
Mm-hmm.
And the industry has shifted. In the last couple of years, we've seen more big publications lay off their staff writers.
Yeah.
And so now these beautifully talented people are kind of floating around in the atmosphere
Mm-hmm.
as freelance writers. Maybe they got another gig, but they're also still contributing. That makes it harder to find these people.
Mm-hmm.
And now they used to be like the, whatever staff writer for a magazine. And now they're like not doing, where are they now? The pay to play, even for podcasts. I was asked to
Mm-hmm.
be on a really notable podcast. And here's the thing is like, and then there's a paywall. It's a $6,000 investment to appear as a guest, but you might not even get the spot. You won't have to pay if you don't, but you still have to go through this entire vetting
Yeah.
process. And they want to cover the production cost. I get it. That's
Mm.
their sole income is the podcast. And so how do they pay for it? Well, they have guests, not all guests, but some guests have to pay. And then they have sponsors and advertisers and whatnot. But when you're a product-based business, it's absolutely crucial that you are a part of an affiliate program. You
Mm.
have to be,
Yeah.
because if you're in fashion or anything and you want XYZ to publish or mention you in a listicle, they make money now, publications, from those affiliate fees,
Yeah.
because advertising is dying. People aren't subscribing to these magazines anymore. So there's no subscription revenue coming in. So now they're relying on these people coming in with affiliate links, getting a kickback. And that makes sense.
Totally makes
So
sense to me.
immediately, if you're a product-based business and you're not a part of like skim links or anything, go sign up today. Do it right now.
Wait,
Pause
can you
this
repeat that?
episode.
What did you just say?
So one of them is called skim links.
Okay, Skimlink. So that's an affiliate platform where you can set up products to track back and then you pay a commission when someone
Exactly.
clicks and buys on your website.
Exactly. So you'll
Okay.
look at like the listicles. So a listicle is any list post. So you go, like, so right now it's a great time to be like, what are the top 10 ideas to get my wife for Christmas this year?
Mm-hmm. Gift guides.
Okay. Exactly. Go and search that. And I will guarantee you in those top hits is all of the products that are mentioned are affiliates. And you'll know this when you click on it, watch the search bar at the top. It's going
The
to do some
link.
fancy dance, and it's good because it's going through all the affiliate stuff, because it's tracking whether or not you ended up purchasing something. And then when
Mm-hmm.
somebody does, that publication gets a kickback.
Mm-hmm.
And that's how they make their money.
I love it. So when you said pay to play, I was like, oh no, like I'm nervous about what's going to happen here. And what I want to say is like, amen to what you just said, because I've been talking about affiliate marketing and paying. So I think there are all different types of pay to play. Like some influencers want you to pay them like $10,000 to talk about something on Instagram. For my audience, it's probably not going to be an avenue that's going to be available until someone's doing like millions of dollars in revenue to like make that make sense, right? So for a smaller brand, doing something like this, affiliate marketing, where you are setting up an affiliate link, you're partnering with a publication to get in a listicle or a gift guide or whatever it is, and paying a small fee, 10 to 15% of the cost of the product, if they're getting traffic to your website, can be super valuable. It's huge.
I mean, if you want to get on those top lists, and first of all, some of these lists aren't new lists, they're just updated. Because if an article is already ranking, they want to maintain that position in the
so they just edit the products?
So, and there's like this thing, I'm no SEO expert, but I do know how this works. And that actually Google just released some information about this like a month ago, is that if you want that article to continue to rank, you have to change a certain amount of words and stuff in the article. And so it's a good opportunity for you to be like, hey, can you include my new, like, whatever dress, my little red dress or whatever. And sometimes, so the best way to do it is to search all those listicles, find out who is the writer, the author of those listicles, and find their contact information and reach out.
What is your favorite way to like do your research and find editors, writers, people who are creative with content?
there's so many places to find people. Um, and I'm just going to back up a little bit
Yeah,
because
back
the
up.
most important thing when it comes to PR, hands down, is your network.
Yes.
You can sit behind a screen and pitch all the people you want in the world, but what is going to have the most bang for your buck is showing up. It's
Hmm.
physically going to events, local, like get on a plane and go somewhere. That's how
Hmm.
you and I met.
Yes.
And I'm sure like we would have become Instagram buddies too. And we would have eventually been on each other's show, but we just know each other. We like each other. So it's like,
Yeah.
duh, this is going to happen.
Yeah.
So that's a form of publicity. That's like when you're building your network. I have a really awesome influencer that I'm working with. She's got a lot of followers. To
Hmm.
pitch her to be on shows isn't hard.
Yeah.
However, there are certain shows of which I can't find the contact for the life of me. I don't know who the
Hmm.
producer is. I know who the host is and I have their contact information, but they're not the decision maker.
Yeah.
And so I actually had to go through another PR company whom I'm friends with to ask for contact. Like, this is the strangest thing. I was like, you know
Yep.
what? If I don't ask, I won't receive.
Yep.
And so if it wasn't for me networking, I wouldn't have found out who these people are that were nice enough to give me this contact information.
That's
And so
such a
now I
good,
can pitch.
that's such a good point. I think people don't realize like how many people in their network could actually provide them a connection that could get them somewhere.
Oh, I
And people
mean,
are afraid to ask. Why do you think people are afraid to ask?
because they're afraid that either someone will say yes or they will say no.
Yeah,
They don't
that's
want to
true.
annoy people. They don't want to
I don't
bug
want to
them.
bug them. I know.
They don't want to bug them. And I will tell you this, the best clients I've ever had are the ones that I don't want to say bug me the most, but actually have the most input and feedback to the work
Mm,
because they're telling me what they want. They hired me to get what they want. And
I
it's like,
love
all
that.
right, like a press release. And like some people are like, yeah, just change these words and it's good to go. I'm like, but really? And then there's some people that just cut it up, like splice it up, reword things. And then I go in and I jazz it up and it's a lot of work. But at the end of the day, we're both happy with it.
Yeah.
And so like most people would be afraid to ask for that input, but you just got to. And another example is
Mhm.
my husband, Dan. He's still doing his book tour. His book came out in January.
Still, he's nuts.
So it's like, oh yeah, he's on it. We just got back from Scottsdale. We just missed you. But he showed up 3 days prior to his big event for SaaS Academy. And he managed over the course of like 2.5 days to get on 9 podcasts. He went in studio to 9 shows. How it started was he got a yes for one. And he said, hey, Tracy, since I'm there, can you make an intro to anybody else you think I should be a guest on? Because I'm already going to be there.
So
I'd be
good.
like, yeah, for sure. You got to talk to Chad and Jane and Sarah, the intros. And then he would do the same thing with them. We don't ask for the intros. We don't ask for help. We won't grow. We won't get the things we need.
Exactly. Oh, it's such a good point. I want to piggyback on that a little bit because we were talking about it on your show too. It's like some of like the best like celebrity placements and publicity that I got were because of people that I knew from university or like from childhood. It's like one of my really close friends from childhood ended up being like the director of publicity at Fox TV, not to be confused with Fox News, but Fox TV. And when American Idol was hosted on that network for so long back in the early 2000s, she hooked me up with the stylist. And then that led me to another opportunity and they introduced me to someone else. And then you get your products, like you meet these stylists who end up getting the product placed on the celebrity. And then you have like screenshots and pictures and things that you can use for credibility, which is awesome.
Yes.
Yeah.
And another thing too is for the people that don't necessarily have that instant like connection in their back pocket is, and this is the harder way to go, but is to become so phenomenal in what you do that people
Mm,
can't help but pay attention. And I know there's a lot of, especially women, are like probably beautiful jewelry designers, fashion designers that have the most incredible pieces. They're not showcasing themselves enough, and it's a shame.
well, I feel like they
And
focus on their product more than themselves.
and I get it because we're artists and sometimes we just don't know what we have to do.
Yeah. So this kind of leads me, you kind of touched on it a little bit earlier, but like for someone like in the jewelry space and like, because there's so many different ways to position yourself, right? You can like speak on a stage about your business. You can be on a podcast. You can pitch an article. You can write an article. You can pitch your products for placement? Like, so what are some of the different ways, and the listicle we talked about?
Yeah.
What do you think are the most powerful forms of PR right now that you're seeing across the board that everyone should be thinking about? Because I think the listicle thing, I think that they realize is a thing that they should do outside of the affiliate marketing thing. But like, I think people are thinking too small and like myopically about where they can pitch themselves.
Yeah, totally. What works now, and I think is still a growing opportunity, is podcasts.
Yeah.
And there's many reasons why, but hey, you're inviting me for 30 minutes to sit in front of your entire audience. I don't know how many listeners you have, but for the most part, and I'm hoping your completion rate is like 100%.
Yeah.
That means they're going to listen through to the end, and they're hanging out with us.
Mm-hmm.
So now they're listening like, this Renee girl, I like her. She's kind of funny. She's quirky and she knows PR. So if I need PR, maybe I'll go to her. But podcasts give you the opportunity to be in front of your ideal audience for on average 37 minutes. That's how long the average podcast show is. You don't get that for free anywhere else. You just don't. And I don't want to say it's easy, but pitching podcasts is one of the easiest forms because it's either a yes or a no. Media is vague. It's like, maybe now, maybe later. I don't know. Follow up to me in like 2 months. But I think podcast is such a lucrative opportunity. And beyond that too, is you get the opportunity to form a relationship with the host, like what we're doing. And if you're really, really strategic about it, which I am, because I did this on my last episode, is it becomes the sales opportunity.
Yeah.
So for my podcast, for the most part, not all the time, is the majority of the people that are invited to be on my show have to pass the filter of being a potential customer of mine. So the vetting is like, are they cool? Do they have a great message? Are they unique? Will they provide value to my audience? Do they have a following? And by following, I mean, are they sharing great content? Can they become a customer? Because once we stop recording, the conversation we have is either, can I help you? Can you help me? Can I make introductions? Like, how can I support you? And because they're already there talking to you. And so as a jewelry designer, a fashion designer, it's the same thing. You can strategically ask those questions. It could be like, hey, Tracy, is there any other podcasts you think I should go on? Can you make an intro to anybody?
Oh, I have a ton of a list now for you. I'm like thinking.
Yeah. But what happens is it's not just the list, it's the intro. And when the intro is made from somebody you approve of or somebody you like, then it changes the game for everything. So that's why I like Dan's strategy and being like, hey, I'm already in Austin or already in Scottsdale. Who else can you introduce me to? So and good. And I don't want to say it's easy, but it's like, and maybe some people label this as hustle. I just label this as making the most use of your time.
No, I think it's great. It's so overlooked too. Like sometimes you just forget that final question. Like, who else do you know? Dan is all, I mean, I've known Dan longer than I've known you, and I've always seen him do that. So it's like, it's such a natural extension of who he is. Like I need to start remembering to do that a little bit more like you do. It's like, it's just a great.
Yeah. And we shy away from doing it because we're afraid that they'll be like, no, or I'm too busy, or you don't want to annoy the other person. Because what happens is you end up putting the onus on the other person to make the suggestion. So then to one up my recommendation is to be like, hey, Tracy, I saw that you were on Lori Harder's podcast. And do you think that might be a good fit? And if so, do you think you can make an introduction? Because that's it. You're asking for one ask to a very specific person.
Exactly.
That's next level.
That's amazing. There you go. Mic drop.
I'm out of here. Bye.
So let's talk about pitching, like what to write in a pitch, the kinds of pitches to write, because there's all different types of things that you can pitch. I mean, pitching a podcast is going to be different than pitching a listicle and all those things. So what's your strategy for crafting an amazing pitch?
So the most important thing is that it's short. As short as in like 200 words.
200 words. Oh, that's a good piece of advice.
It is. Yeah. And I mean, like, don't go more than 250. And you want to not include an attachment, especially if this is a cold email. They've never opened it up before. And why? Because spam filters will grab that email and most people won't see it. So when you craft that pitch after it's done, then you write the subject line. So subject line is what's going to hook people.
Yeah.
And this is where I'll spend literally hours. I've gone through 15 to 20 different versions of subject lines with the same pitch just to see what gets open.
Can you share with me one of your best subject lines that you've written?
Yeah, actually, it's a recent client. Her name is Amber. I'm just opening up my email. She was launching a book, and the book's called The Unflustered Mom: How Understanding the 5 Anxiety Styles Transforms the Way We Partner, Parent, Live, and Love. And essentially what she was trying to teach people is how to lower their anxiety, lower their
Mhm.
overwhelm. In the book, it teaches your anxiety style. Like, you have one of 5 anxiety styles, and here's a way to like mitigate your overwhelm. So the subject line that ended up being like an instant hit. I remember when I put the subject line in, I pitched 5 podcasts and all of them said yes within the same day. I was like, whoa, okay, this works. So here's the subject line: Unflustered new guest taming our addiction to overwhelm.
Oh, that's great.
That's it. Yeah, that's it. And then my pitch is, I don't know how many words, but the first paragraph is always a personal connection point so that they
Mhm.
know that you're not just a bot. And then there's a paragraph with a link, one link to typically the website of yourself or the person you're pitching. And it's just a quick like intro of the person, and then bullet points. So you need to break up the email so
Mhm.
that's not just big paragraphs. And sometimes let's choose to link to the person's social media account, or if they just landed really big news or a big show, I'll link to a show. So be like, hey, Tracy was just featured on whatever Lewis House show.
Mhm.
If this is part of the vetting process, then tune in, kind of thing. But for Amber, I wrote, I don't know, 18 different pitches. And typically what you do is you pitch 10 times, and if nobody opens it, so we use a thing called mailtrack.io.
Oh,
It's a
yeah.
Gmail extension. It's like $5 a month. If you're actively pitching, get it. You know who's opened your
Oh,
emails.
you
You know
can
how many
see that.
times. You know how many times it's been opened, and you know if they've clicked on a link. And so if somebody's opened the email more than 2 times, it's likely that they're interested. So now's a good time to follow up. So you know if they've seen
Oh,
it.
that's brilliant. I'm going to get that tomorrow. Mail track.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. I love it.
Yeah. And so it's like Tetris for words, essentially. Because here's the thing is, when it comes to pretty much any department, any industry right now, it's been done a million times. And so it's about being the person with not only the best pitch, but the best experience when it comes to pitching the
Mm.
person. Some people will have a website and they have the list of like 18,000 social media accounts, and only one of them is really active.
Mhm.
Why are the other ones there?
Yeah.
Right? It's like,
I
take
agree.
out the junk.
I only share my Instagram usually because that's the one I'm active
Exactly.
on. Yeah.
Yeah. And so is your destination, the destination is kind of the place that you're sending them to. Is the destination enticing enough?
Mhm.
And now it doesn't cost a lot of money to have a great website. So there's no excuse there,
Exactly.
right? Start with copy, then make it pretty, make it functional. If you're selling a product online, make it very easy to buy,
Yes.
right? Take all of the extra clicks and links and bumps out of the way. And then you could even set up a press page. I love this. If you go to reneewarren.com/press, I have a press page. And really, it's a media kit. And it showcases other shows I've been on. It gets like pre-approved media headshots, questions you can ask me on an interview, links to my stuff, my bio, everything's there. So people are like, oh, it's just, and I can go and update it whenever I want. So it shows that I'm ready for this, right? So the more
Mhm.
you're prepared for the media, then the better you look, the more up they'll be to saying yes to having you on their show or writing about you.
So when I was looking at your press kit, my favorite picture is the one at the very bottom with you like going nuts on your drums.
Oh, my drums. Yeah. I know I need to get on those a little bit more. There's a song that my kids love that I play for them by Imagine Dragons, Believer.
Yeah.
It's got really good, easy to play drum beat, but anyway.
That's so fun.
But yes, you got to showcase your personality, because you're more than just a designer. You're more than just a
Mhm.
creative. There's a whole life outside. So like, show those expressions of you, all those sides of you. People like to see that. And especially if you're like pitching to be on podcast or TV or radio, if it's still a thing for you,
Mhm.
is make sure that the destination, whether it's your website or a social media account, shows you speaking, shows you talking on videos, doing reels,
Mhm.
because people gauge whether or not you can actually be a good guest just by how you show up online. So don't be shy.
This is true.
Yeah. And I tell you this, the stuff that I share that people love the most are all the moments when I'm like just rolling out of bed and I look like a bag of smashed buttholes. And I'm just talking the truth about life and they love it. That's what they love. So perfection won't get you anywhere. Just do
This
it.
is true.
Mhm.
Oh my gosh, so many good things there. Okay, so so for someone who is wanting to work with a publicist, what
Mhm.
recommendations do you have to help them get started?
Yeah. So here's the thing is PR is such an interesting space because for many reasons, and not in defense of us, but you could really pitch like 50 people and get no replies and you followed all the rules. And there's so many reasons that like all these things are working against you. But when you're looking to work with a PR expert or a publicist, is you want to make sure that there's somebody you have a connection with. You show up,
Mm,
interview them, ask all the questions. You have to like them because there's somebody that's going to know almost everything that they should be knowing about you to get you in the media. They need to have a track record. And if
mhm.
they're new and just starting out, give them the benefit of the doubt, but just means a little bit more work on your end because they've never really done this before. But a track record, ask about their process.
Yeah,
What are the expectations? How many people are you pitching a week? What does the reporting look like? Tell me your process. Because most of the time is like you don't know what to expect if you've never worked with one before.
mhm.
And it can be expensive. And here's the
Yeah,
thing too, in terms of expectation setting, is it usually takes about a month to do a good strategy. So prepare for that.
mhm.
A good publicist will try to get you a couple wins in the first month just to make sure that they feel confident that you're actually
Yeah,
doing something. And then after that, it's active pitching. It's active seeking opportunities, looking
mhm.
where they can feature you. And if there's nothing that's really happening, what are they creating, right? You can't get news if you don't create news. You have to be
Yeah,
newsworthy. So if you're launching something, announcing something, that's all newsworthy. If it's just like there's just a cycle where there's nothing going on, you got to do something to
mhm.
make people want to talk about you.
This is
So I
true.
don't know, maybe if you're a football player, you can go and date Taylor Swift. That'll get you in the news. Right? But the point being is like, how can you just be creative and bold enough that people actually want to talk about you?
I love that. That's awesome. Okay, so on the flip side, if someone's not ready to make the investment in hiring a publicist and they want to do it on their own, what words of advice do you have to them?
Well, they can follow me on Instagram. I give away
Yeah.
a lot of good crap. Renee
Okay, love it.
underscore Warren. Yeah. And I
Say
actually
it
have a
again because I
couple.
think I was talking while you were talking.
So it's Renee, Renee underscore Warren,
Okay, awesome.
Warren. I have a couple free tools on my website too, wewildwomen.com. But really, it comes down to, like I said, make sure home is clean, as in like your website, your
Hmm.
socials. Just start talking. Look at a couple podcasts. We always start new clients with what we call, quote, the low hanging fruit.
Yes.
It's not to say they're not good shows. Believe me, they're great. It's just they probably aren't ranked as high.
Hmm.
And they'll probably be more open to taking new guests. So you got to get those kinks out. You're not going to go
Yeah.
for the big shows right away because you'll just stun yourself.
Yeah.
It can be overwhelming. And then just look for shows that you feel have the audience that you want to get in front of. So don't just be on the show for the sake of being on a show. Be strategic about it. Sometimes like
Yeah.
super industry podcasts, like I have a friend who creates training programs for the construction and trades business. Like sounds boring. So
Mm.
I didn't know this. There's a whole world of
Wow.
podcasts for construction workers in trades.
Oh, really?
And oh yeah. And she's been on like a handful of those shows and now she's getting customers because of it.
Oh, that's amazing.
Yeah. So go niche. Go
Yeah.
like
There's
I
so
know
many
that
jewelry podcasts now too for all the jewelry
well,
designers
and
out
I
there.
know you people all hang out together. The jewelry
Yeah,
people, they stick together, right? I mean,
they do.
they're soldered together,
They
right?
solder
Isn't that the
together.
way?
Yep.
They're soldered together. Ask your buddies. Hey, I saw you were on the show. Can you make an intro? Or
Hmm.
that's how it starts. And it doesn't have to be perfect. It's just messy action. It's all about momentum. On my last podcast episode, I interviewed a lady named Bevan. Such a great conversation. She said, movement over mindset.
Movement over mindset.
Don't wait to be ready. Just take the first step. Do it.
I love that.
And let me tell you, I was 17 years old when I first started my business. I started a restaurant, didn't know what I was doing. My mom told me to get a job, and I thought entrepreneurs made a lot of money and they didn't work. So I'm just going to get a
They don't work. That's funny.
No. Remember the story of my PR agency? Never pitched a day in my life. Yet I started a successful PR agency. Drum lessons. I wanted to go drum on the stage and never hardly drummed before. So the point of this being is you don't have to have all these letters after your name to become the best. You don't have to have it figured out. It's really just asking. Just ask for it. Do the damn thing.
Do the damn thing. I like to say, like, act as if you already have achieved the thing that you're trying to create in your life. Yeah. You know, what are those things?
Yeah. It's like Mel Robbins has her book, The High Five Habit.
Yeah.
And I did a version of that where instead of high-fiving myself, I mean, I did that for a couple of days. Then I would look in the mirror and I would just talk to my 18-year-old self instead. Yeah. Be like, oh girl, like it's messy and this sucks. And by the way, this is going to happen, but you're going to be fine. And then I would look up to the sky, hands to the sky. And I would say like, God, guide me, like God, or thank you for this, or like, I believe in you, or help me through this situation, whatever it is. And every single time the universe delivered.
Always.
You have to believe in it.
You have to believe in it. It's true. Okay. I'm going to pivot here for a second. You're a busy mom. You've got 2 boys. You're running a business. You're doing all the things. You and Dan travel all the time. Like, how do you do it all?
Yeah. Well, we have a woman in our life. Her name is Betty. She's a real person. She's our house manager. She's been with us for 2.5, almost 3 years now. Without her, we wouldn't be able to do this. Yeah. I actually don't know too many couples in like our immediate circle of friends that have the same luxuries of the life and like traveling and running our business passionately and are able to be at home and do all the things. Like it's an impossibility. Yeah. So Betty picks the boys up from school at the end of the day. She manages all the things in the house. She manages everything with the cart, the landscapers, all this stuff. And she just kind of helps us get through the day. And without her, I couldn't do it. When we first hired a version of her, it was really hard for me to get behind that because I thought, I'm a mom, I got to do it all. That society says I have to do it all or else I'm not validated. But when I gave up control, and there's still people like, oh, look at Renee, like me, she can't even hold her own. She has to have a Betty. Like, yeah, but guess what? I would love to have a Betty. Arizona to be with friends for a week in the hot sun while you're still here complaining about me. People are going to push back. And a lot of times it's like immediate friends, family. You just got to start delegating. Yeah. That's really what it is. Like, no, a woman's role is where she wants to be.
Yeah, exactly.
It's not in the kitchen.
I would 100% hire a Betty. I'm like, Dan's your husband. Jason's my boyfriend. Jason and I had talked about it because we're like, how can we get support for the girls? Like, and we're trying to figure out what that looks like for us because his daughters are a little bit older and they're about to drive. But I'm like, even if we just had someone in like 3 hours a day, like tidying things up, like making dinner and like doing our laundry, that would like change my life. Yeah. We have that once a week. We don't have it every day though.
A lot of people don't think like they think everything is siloed, right? They think a cleaning lady just shows up to clean and that's her role. Yeah. What about asking her to do the laundry? What about asking her or him to do the groceries? Yeah. What about asking them to clean the car or pack your suitcase? Like the more that somebody becomes more capable in understanding your flow, get them to do more stuff around the house.
That's a good suggestion.
Yeah, it's an easy start. Because I guarantee you the people that have figured this out already have help at home. They're just not delegating enough to them.
I love that idea. Okay, so I have another idea on this vein. I know that you recently launched a planner. And maybe it was a year and a half ago when you launched it.
It's like a year ago-ish, yeah.
You launched a planner and is it still a thing?
It's still a thing. Okay, I'm looking at all the planners in my office.
All the planners. Yes. So you launched a planner. I'm going to ask you about this in a minute. And I remember Dan talking about how you guys have host your family meetings and like the offsites that you guys do. But even before you wrote his book, like he was telling us all about this. So How did this planner come about? And like, what's the purpose of it? And how do you use it to run your family?
So the planner came about because I didn't have anything that I could write down what I needed to write down in the morning to help me get
Mm,
organized for the day. But really, the planner starts with I don't know if you know Danielle Laporte, but she has like
yeah.
some beautiful literature and a bunch of great books, but there are workshop type activities. The beginning of the planner is actually activity, as in the sense where you read, you have to create your mission statements and there's like your
Mm,
values. There's a bunch of stuff that I teach you, one of which is how to make better decisions.
mm,
Because when you think about what am I deciding to do today, like your to-do list has to connect to your purpose. And
ooh.
we'll look at our to-do list as a thing like if I check this off, I'll feel productive and accomplished. But
Mm-hmm.
if it's not working on the things that actually lead towards that
Mm-hmm.
meaningful, purposeful life, then it's really redundant. There's
This
like
is
no
true.
point. So I teach people how to do that, how to create these visions, mission statements, and then your repeatable morning actions. So these are the things you
Love
do
it.
every day before anything else. It could be drink water, it could be stretch, whatever it is. And then you get into your daily pages, which is like your big goals for the day, cool quote, and then things. And then at the end of the day, you kind of round the day up with like your energy and like things you could have
Mm-hmm.
improved during the day. Um, the planner wasn't really related to the stuff that Dan and I do.
Okay.
So we do like weekly meetings and quarterly couples retreats, which has been a game changer for our relationship. So you think about what are the things that we do in our businesses to be successful? Most of us
Mm-hmm.
don't apply those same philosophies at home. And I mean, so Dan shares this on his Instagram and I read the comments from people
What
being
did they
like,
say?
oh, that sounds like too much work. Or like, how do you know your wife's happy if you're forcing her to do these like stand-ups? And I mean, people are just so rude. And obviously, these people are the ones that are like Ryan Chad 258 and have a picture of a dog as their
I
profile
know.
picture
And no followers. It's like zero
and no
followers.
followers. But the reality is like if you're looking at what works in your business, there's probably a lot of it that can work at home.
Yes.
And the whole point of why we do this, these weekly meetings, the quarterly retreats, and all these other things we do is to gain our time back, is
Mm-hmm.
to optimize for those moments with our kids and with each other,
Yeah.
because that's what matters the most. And I'm
It's
not going
true.
to waste 30 minutes mowing my own lawn.
Oh
I'm not
no.
going to waste 45 minutes trying to read financial documents when it's not something I'm good at, which is my
Mm-hmm.
husband's role. And if I want to optimize that time with my kids
Yeah.
and it costs, yeah, it costs. For us,
Mm-hmm.
it costs. The alternative is I don't work and I spend all that time with my kids, which I'll resent.
Yeah.
And so we do this because it's really nice to get away every 3 weeks or every 3 months, sorry, alone, disconnected for three
Yeah.
days. And it's like redating my husband again.
So fun.
And then the funnest one comes up in December every year where we plan the year. So we've been invited to beautiful events coming up in 2024, of which I say all the time, my default is Dan and I plan our year in December. I'll let you know if that is available for us to attend. I feel like that's fascinating, but isn't your calendar open now? It's like, sure it is.
But we
But
don't plan it till then. That's
we
so
don't
great.
plan it until we look at each other's calendars. So am I allowed to swear on this show
Yeah,
or?
for sure.
Okay. So we have the things in our life called fuck yeah. So if you're invited to do something and your immediately body goes, fuck
Yeah.
yeah, then that goes in the calendar.
Yep.
Okay. One that we're doing next year is the Taylor Swift concert.
Oh, of
Yes.
course. Yes.
That is a fuck yeah. So that goes in. Why is that a fuck yeah? And it's in stone is because when you get invited to something else in and around that time, you can say, oh, no, sorry, we're not available. This could be birthdays, it could be Halloween, whatever's important to
Mm-hmm.
you is you block it out because you have to protect that time. And then all the other stuff like pebbles fall in and then the
Yeah.
sand. And if you're someone like me, I mean, my husband would be living on a plane. We wouldn't
Yeah.
have a house. He'd have a suitcase and live on a plane. I would be the opposite. I would never leave my house
Yeah.
if I had it my way. So he knows that. So we have to balance the timing of like how
Yeah.
often we travel. And usually it's about a week every month, which is fine. But with that, then we can start looking at the weeks where, hey, Dan and I are going to be here for a week next July. Betty, we need you to take care of the kids. It's as simple as that. So the more advanced notice all the people have that help support your lifestyle then it makes it easier for everybody and yourself, because then you're planning work too.
Mm-hmm. I love it.
And if you see there's like holes where you're not doing enough time with your kids or you're not spending that time with each other, then you can fill those holes. But one thing we actually have this weekend are quarterly board meetings with our kids.
So great. And what does that look like?
So we have from 1 p.m. till 6 p.m. once a quarter with each child. So we have this weekend and next weekend. So this Saturday I have Noah, and then next Saturday I have Max. And the day is whatever the child wants to do.
Oh, that's so fun. So it's like a date with your child.
Yep. So it could be laser tag, it could be bowling, it could be building Lego cities. And let me tell you, this is the best moments, and like I will probably gain 5 pounds in that day because we're just notoriously eating popcorn and
all
pizza. But some of us have to schedule this time in our calendar.
And then you don't miss it. It's always there. Yeah.
No. Because the way I see it is, say your calendar was in someone else's hands. They could put whatever they wanted in that calendar whenever they wanted it. Would you be happy with how much autonomy you've given somebody else to manage your time? Most people wouldn't. And so you have to put those big rocks in your calendar.
This is true. I love it. Renee, thank you so much for being here today. Where can everyone find you? And where can they get your planner too?
Yes. Okay. Planner first, wewildwomen.com. And I think it's /planner. Oh my gosh. Anyways, if you go to wewildwomen.com, along the top, you can see the planner. And then on Instagram at Renee, RENEE_Warren.
Awesome. Thanks so much for being here today.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you so much for listening to the show today and watching this episode. I hope that you enjoyed it. If you haven't done so yet, make sure that you pick up a copy of my best-selling book, The Desired Brand Effect: Stand Out in a Saturated Market with a Timeless Jewelry Brand. It's available over at desiredbrandeffect.com. You can also find it on Amazon and Audible. Thanks so much. Ciao for now.